All right, let's do the books.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give you free mic, which some people use and some people don't. But I always say, a couple of books or movies or, whatever you want that you would recommend. Mm-hmm. And now you are both a man of diverse interests, but also have spent tons of time in a library. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, so a lot of books.
Yeah, so like what are books you would recommend, whether it's for educational purposes or just personal enjoyment? Yeah. What do you think people should check out?
I wish people read more nonfiction. That's
almost all I read.
That's almost all I read too.
Yeah. I used to be all fiction when I was young, and now I'm almost all nonfiction.
Yeah, I just wish more people read nonfiction in general. So that's like the big picture. Just because it's a lot of the times these fiction novels do have some pretty solid science behind them. I read some science fiction every once in a while, and it's like the concepts they're talking about are accurate and true. It's just you kind of take some liberties with it and weave a story through it. But it's like it's like biographies, things like that. I eat those things up. I love learning about like how like one of my favorite biographies I've read in the last few years was The Invention of Nature by I've wrote it down here. The Invention of Nature by I can't even read my own writing. Andrea Wolf, I think. Story
of my life.
Story of my life. I can't even read my own handwriting.
But what did you write on my essay? I don't know. Just deal with it.
Is it a positive or negative? So The Invention of Nature is all about Alexander von Humboldt and how, you've heard of the Humboldt current, things like that. It's like this was a guy who really did pioneer like all sorts of like fields of science. And he was doing this in the 1800s. He was bringing like 100 pounds of gear up to the top of these Andean mountains to take pressure measurements because nobody had ever done that before. Or at least nobody recorded how pressure differentials work when you get higher in the atmosphere, or how there's this stratification layers of different climates within a mountain itself, and like being able to like link all these things together. He was like one of those jack of all trades and master of everything kind of guys.
Right.
He was just like, he totally like pioneered all sorts of fantastic fields of science, and I really think just his story in general is like one of those you read it and it's just like, that's cool. That guy did a lot. Like, and he's not. It's like it's not like an Albert Einstein name. Like everybody knows Einstein.
Yeah.
You say Alexander von Humboldt, which he's got some crazy long like 12-word name.
Yeah. When you said it, I'm like, yeah, I've heard that name. I don't know why I've heard that name.
Yeah, like what did he do?
There's like a mention in another book. But
and which I'm sure again he's like one of those like shoulders of giants that you're standing on.
Right.
And he was like the pioneer on all sorts of crazy things, and totally enjoyed that. I recommend that often to people.
Okay.
Super cool book.
Nice.
I also I enjoy stories of people pushing themselves to like pretty far out places. There's this book, Blind Descent, that I've read a few times now. James Taboff, I think, if I read my own name right again. Blind Descent, though, that's about finding the deepest cave in the world. And you think about finding the deepest cave in the world. Like, what does that entail? It's like some guys going down, caving.
Yeah.
For months.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like when you
in
say
the
like
dark,
deepest cave in the world,
like thousands of meters down.
Yeah, I was about to say something dumb like why would it necessarily have to stop? But I guess if it didn't, it'd be filling up pretty quick with
other stuff.
Molten rock or water or something. But deepest cave in the world.
Yeah, no, super. Just like those topics just fascinate me because the way they describe it is like, okay, this is climbing Mount Everest upside down in the dark. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just as deep. I can't remember the stats specifically, but it's several thousand feet underground.
Right.
There's like massive rivers flowing because you think groundwater's it all seeps into the ground.
Yeah.
Where does it go? It's like it's a lot of this karst topography that's like carving out these caves. They're carved out by moving water in a lot of cases, and it's like you could be a month into a caving trip, like you're just going down and down and down and down, and then there's this river that's like wider than the Potomac, gushing through, just popping out of the side of this rock wall.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, the whole,
that's weird.
It's just crazy to think about that this is part of the
It's like a
world.
nonfiction journey to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, super cool.
It's
just I enjoy books that kind of like just kind of take you along the journey like that, because it's like I'm never going to make it to the bottom of the Kubera cave, which is like there's this point where they determined that it ended, and which again that's just where they got to. But just super. Yeah, it's just fascinating. On the other side of that spectrum, I do love things like Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. Just the other end of the spectrum, it's just it's going up instead of down. But just tales of people pushing themselves, because I think that's like one of the coolest things about humans in general is like how far some people are able to take themselves. Be it physical fitness or just mental finessing and all that. Those kind of stories just fascinate me.
That's cool.
Definitely really.
It's funny because like I feel like when people say, I like novels, I like fiction, you go, well, what genre? Like what? I like romance, I like science fiction, whatever. And like I feel like when I say, especially I'm sitting in a room full of English teachers, and I say like, oh, what have you read lately? And I'm like, a lot of nonfiction. And then, like, I think everybody just assumes that's just one thing. Like, no, think of every different kind of fiction you have.
Think of everything.
and then just imagine someone told you a truer version of that. I mean, I do a lot of stuff that's more like anthropology, psychology. Do like a lot of weird books on like genetics and evolution.
That's actually the Gene by Siddhartha. Dude, I can't read my hand.
Oh no, I haven't read that, but
you've probably seen it linked to a bunch of them, because that and like Enlightenment Now and Sapiens and Homo Deus and things like that.
Yeah, those were great. Sapiens and Homo Deus were fantastic.
Those are another subset of nonfiction that I kind of like follow a lot of authors on. Is that thinking, where's humanity going? How is technology kind of influencing culture and the human climate kind of in general? And I mean, that's my generation specifically. It's like I grew up without the internet, like early childhood.
Right.
It popped up around, like it became more commonplace in like middle and high school and stuff, and like ever since then it's like having the world at your fingertips. I can yell at my pocket and it'll tell me every fact I could ever want to know.
Right.
It's like that's different than how life was when I first started.
Yeah, I remember we got our first computer when I was in like, I don't know, 3rd or maybe 4th grade, and got the internet in like 6th or 7th grade or something like that. And then that was like, but now I'm teaching students, and there's a noticeable difference. It's weird, but where they've always had access to it, like the way they think about knowing a thing or looking at a thing, and like I know that makes me sound like weird old man kind of thing, but like it's a noticeable difference. I think it's also a noticeable difference in behavior because of how much time you spend communicating electronically versus in person. Like it's weird because I work with young people, so like I'm seeing it a little bit, and I think that's a hard thing to describe. But like Homo Deus was really cool in the way he talked about some of like his projections, it's like, the whole book is basically well-researched guesses kind of deal, but that one was really good and got me thinking of very differently about where we're going.
It makes you think like, it's just like, how is this new technology going to be impacting? I mean, I fully believe that my kids will never drive a car. If I ever have kids, it's like, they'll probably never physically drive a car because technology will negate that need.
Or their kids won't, for sure. Like
I think it's sooner than that.
It probably is. I'm just saying, like, even if you like roll that out slowly, like that in a way is good because it's safe and all that. But like, I like driving.
But that's the thing. It's like we're just familiar with it. But it's like if we were to ask some kid who's always had the internet at his fingertips to go find the library that has the book on the subject that you're looking for, and if it has that, you're lucky because you don't have to go request it. It's like it's latency. I mean, that's kind of like something that I think about a lot. Is just like how much latency has sped up, and how much decreased latency we have in knowledge nowadays. I mean, the fact that I can yell at my pocket, "Hey Siri, tell me this," and it just does, and for the most part it's right, accurate.
Yeah.
But to be like, 20 plus years ago, to say like, well, what is the average discharge of the Amazon River? Like, you gotta do a lot of research to figure that out.
Like,
it's
it's a hard thing to do.
It's just like it takes a lot of time, and like
I have to learn how to use a card catalog.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just this whole process, and I can literally like yell at my pocket, and it'll just tell me. And now they're even they talk about like connecting your brain directly to the internet, and whether or not that's a great idea, I don't know. But it's like the fact that it's even being talked about.
Yeah.
And there's prototypes out there. There's people who are trying this and like trying to like tap
if you talk about it, it'll happen. It's how we take the phone for granted, but like so much of that came from the inspiration of Star Trek and James Bond. And it's just because somebody thought it was cool, and then someone else thought it was cool,
like,
and other people thought it was cool. Someone tries to do it,
Yeah.
right?
And then,
and that's how these things sort of happen. I mean, I remember. I think it was like, I don't remember, a class in like 2nd or 3rd grade, we learned about how MIT was doing a project on wearable computers, and teams of college students, it was like a bike helmet with a little computer stuck to it and like a little like screen glasses that went in front. And I mean, now it faded away because of like a bunch of safety concerns, but like Google Glass is already a thing. Like you could already do that, and that's in a span of, I mean, maybe it was 20, 25 years, Yeah, I'm going to have the internet in my head, and then I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do nothing. That's right.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to do nothing.
Just tap in Ready Player One style. You just tap into this other universe and let your body kind of do whatever. And I mean, eventually, it's like, what is our bodies going to be used for? Like, I don't know. It's crazy to think about, but it's just like,
you're here to power the machine.
Yeah.
So. All right. So what else you got on your list? I say this. You are the most prepared person for this question. I tell every person I'm going to ask you for a couple books, and everybody acts like they're surprised and fumbles for one or two. You, the library man, has a list.
General, like, I mean, these are ones that I sat down from the 10 minutes before you got here. I was just like, oh, right, I need to tell him some books. Let me like look at my Audible and my Overdrive account and see what I've read recently that really like I remember specific, because it's just, I mean, again, I churn through a ton of books in a year, and it's just. There's ones you pay more closer attention to than others, and I really enjoyed these two books kind of go together. Is The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wollenberg and The Overstory by Richard Powers. I don't know if you've read.
I've heard of the first one.
The Hidden Life of Trees.
Yeah.
That's a good one to start on. It's a lot shorter, and the concept is a lot more like digestible. The Overstory gets into all sorts of. I mean, just. It goes off on tangents. It gets all metaphysical and whatnot, and you have to be into it a little bit more to like really appreciate it.
Right.
One of those kind of books where it's like you're not reading it just as like a quick light read. It's a thick old brick of a book that takes a lot to chew through. But
so what are they?
Is fantastic. And
what's it about? Like, what is it?
So to give a quick synopsis, it kind of tells stories through the perspective of a tree. Okay. So think about a tree's lifespan versus a human lifespan. We go through whatever the average age, 78 and a half years or whatever it is. And this is generally like what happens for a tree. It's, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 years or more. And it kind of gives like a, I don't know, it's hard to summarize that dense of a book, but that's generally how I was. If I was to give a 30-second elevator pitch on it, it's like it's a story of the world told through trees perspective.
That's cool. Yeah.
Cool.
And you would see it. I always think about that, like how differently things look when you experience time differently. Like if you're a mayfly, and you got like 24 to 48 hours to be born, mate, die. Like, all right, but. Maybe the mayfly doesn't know that it was only a day. Like, you wouldn't know, but like the tree, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. For us, a day is, a second in the tree's span.
Yeah, so what's going to happen with like a recommendation like that is I'm now going to go get it on Audible, and the next time we go on a road trip and I want everyone to go to sleep and leave me alone, I put it on. As soon as I put the car on, or put the book on, my wife looks at me. She's like,
"This is Audible."
And then I get a dirty look, and then she pulls out a pillow. I'm like, all right.
Or she puts her own headphones on and dips out. But yeah, and then along with that one, The Hidden Life of Trees. I'm a huge fan of walking meditation. In that I am walking my dog, and I am 100% like just in my own head. Like I'm paying attention to not get hit by cars, and I'm cleaning up after my dog. Like I'm semi-conscious, but it's like I am very far off in my head, and I just think about all sorts of just the life. I mean, you just think about life. And The Hidden Life of Trees is just like this whole underground network of mycelium that talks to each other and how trees are interconnected underground. And it's like, you know, there's all these stats people throw out where it's like every step in the forest that you take, there's 300 miles of mycelium underneath that step and whatnot. And it's like, this is the central nervous system of the forest.
Yeah. What's the guy's name? Paul
Stamets or
Stamets. Yeah. I've read some stuff by him.
The Incredible Fungi or whatever it is. He writes all sorts of fungus books.
I've read like TED Talk and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
His Joe Rogan podcast is pretty interesting too. I've listened to a bunch of interviews.
Yeah, that's one where it's like, oh, so this is like Fungus's planet, and we're just sort of stomping on. All right, that's different. It's a very different way to see the world.
I mean, that's like the heaviest organism on the planet. They estimate is a bunch of fungus growing.
It's like in a forest somewhere. And it's just all connected. Like it's the whole thing.
It's like thousands of acres of fungus just growing underneath us. So that's super cool.
Nice.
I mean, some other ones, Hillbilly Elegy and Educated. Those are just two great thinking books. I mean, just perspective. I like those books in that they give you a perspective of life that I just wasn't exposed to. I mean, you know, Hillbilly Elegy, I recently, within the last year, got kind of reconnected. My grandmother passed away in May of last year, and got to meet a good bit of her other side of the family that I just didn't know really existed. You know, wonderful people, but man, did they live in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. And it's just like, I read that book, and then I went and stayed with them for a little bit and got to know them a little bit, and I'm just like, wow, parallels. It's a different way of life. So I read
both of those within the last probably year, and I think it was somewhere around the end of last school year, so maybe last spring, that I read Hillbilly Elegy, and I thought it was a good sort of case study kind of thing, and take out some of the rural issues, but there were a lot of parts of that where I was like, this is my family, you know, and it was and it's weird to hear it, because I mean, not all of it, but there was enough similarities where it had me rethinking things that happen in my own family, you know, and then not even doing the political or social ramifications. I just thought that was like a good, and I assume honest sort of take on his own family was good. And then Educated is a good comparison point, you know. That's I've been playing with giving a book choice coming up here, and I think those are going to be on the list. And look, guys, you can't read just anything. I mean, you got to bring it to me, but those might be on the list. Just 'cause I think those are experiences that I think are interesting to hear about, and that probably a lot of the kids that I teach in the middle of Ashburn, Virginia, maybe don't have. Or maybe their extended families have, but I don't know that a lot of those kids are living either of those things.
And that's what I really enjoyed about both Educated and Hillbilly Elegy was it's just kind of you know, like you said, there's so many parallels between me growing up and some of the things he's mentioning, and things that never thought about in that perspective. Just either thought that was just a part of life, or it was a lot deeper than I had realized. And there's all sorts of underlying reasons for why some people do certain things, and it's just kind of oh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good lens, I think, to see at least some people. That's good.
Yeah. So, and then I'll cap it off with a fun movie to watch. You may be familiar with these ones, but the Qatsi trilogies.
No.
Koyaanisqatsi, I can't even say them, like Naugus Katsi and something Katsi. The Katsi Q, I can't spell it. I think it's Qatsi or Quatsi.
Okay.
If you type in the Criterion Collection Katsi trilogy, those are some of my favorite movies ever. Then if you watch them, you'd be like, what the hell is he watching? These are movies like they're just for watching. Like there's no, I mean, people try to like tie in all sorts of like modern art, like this is like a reflection of society, but like it just shows life. Like this whole trilogy just shows life. Like one of them is life out of, I think the third one is, again, it's one of the Katsis, but like the tagline is life out of balance. And yeah, they're just fantastic. So I definitely recommend checking those out. I mean, there's this funny, they just make all these like parallels about society and like what we're doing, and no words, like not a single word in this hour and a half plus long movie.
Right.
Just visuals and like incredibly like captivating music, you know, dun dun. It's just like this like oh my goodness movie. And there's this scene where they're like showing in fast motion, sped up, like people coming out of the subway in New York, and they're just like feeding into this escalator, and you just see like thousands of humans just like flowing up this escalator like at high speed, and then it instantly cuts to hot dogs being pushed off the production line just in the same motion.
Exact same thing.
It's just hilarious, and it's just like it's one of those like you just take it all. It's like you don't go into it expecting anything.
Yeah.